Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, The Beautiful Stitches. Today we're going to be continuing the sewing of our simple top. Okay, here are my fabric. This is my front panel and my back panel, including the sleeves. Okay, so here is my lower part, and the other fabric I'll be joining at the midpoint, at the center back. Okay, so I'll be putting it at the center back, and my bands. Okay, here is my band. I used a strong interface to keep it in position, and for the lining I used a soft interface. Okay, as you can see, since I'm not using the same fabric for both the front and back. Okay, so let's keep it aside and go over to today's business. All right, so here is my front panel, and the right side and wrong side I've already marked it out. Okay, so remember also I added 2 inches button allowance at the center front. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is to hold it from the shoulder line at the neck region down to the under bust. Okay, so I'll picking one side of the fabric and one lining, one side of the front side of the fabric and the lining. Okay, just the way I'm doing it, align it together, making sure the lining covers the right side, because after joining we'll be turning it over, okay, for the right side to come outward. So we align it together, and then sew from the shoulder at the neck region down to the half length at the center front. Okay, that's what I'm going to do for the two sides of the front panel. Okay, so let's align our fabrics together, and then I'll take it to my machine and do the same thing on this side also. Okay, let me show us what I'm talking about. All right, so I finish closing up that center front and the neck depth line right from the shoulder area. Okay, just like as I'm doing it now, I've joined it. So what I'm doing now is to turn it round and give it a good press for it to relax properly. Okay, so that is what I have just done. I'll give it a good press and make sure it's well aligned. Okay, so here is the back panel. So what I'm going to be doing for the back panel is to open it out and then place my lining on the right side of the fabric, and then turn it at the neck line. Okay, I'll turn it at the neckline and then turn it over, making sure the right side is out. All right, I've just done that. As you can see, I've joined it, the lining and the back panel. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to mark out my darts. Remember I added 1 inch at the under bust area. Okay, so I'll be marking out my darts. Already I've marked out my dart, just to mark out the length of my dart. All right, so you can either mark it from the under bust or you can mark it from the shoulder line. Okay, if you mark from the shoulder line, by at 9 inches you can mark out your dart placement. Okay, but I'll be marking it down from the under bust. So I'll be marking out 6 inches. Okay, remember I added 1 inch extra for the joining at the band area. Okay, so I'll mark it out 6 inches, 5 inches for the dart, and then the remaining 1 inch is for allowance. Then at that point I'll mark out ½ inch on both sides and connect it to the 6 inches line I've just marked out. Okay, just the way I'm doing it, as you can see. Okay, connect it down to the point where I marked out 6 inches. Okay, the same thing I've done for this side, I'll also do it on the other side of the fabric and for the front side of the fabric. Okay, as you can see, I've marked out my darts on both sides of the back panel, and also for the front panel I've also marked out my dart. But for the front panel, the dart length is shorter than the back panel by 1 inch. Okay, here I marked 5 inches because I added extra 1 inch at the under bust. Okay, so the dart length is going to be 4 inches after joining with the lower side. Okay, here is my fabric. I've joined it. Okay, before adding the dart, I held it by 1/2 inch on the sides. Okay, the same I also did for the front panel. Okay, just to lock it up, 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, so here is my back panel with my darts on it. What I'm going to be doing now is to place the front panel, the two sides of the front panel, on my back panel, right side facing right side. Okay, making sure it aligns with the shoulder. All right, so right now I want to join the shoulder line. What I'm going to do is to open up the two side, okay, the lining and the fabric. Just watch what I'm doing. I'll be joining fabric to fabric, lining to lining. Okay, 1/2 inch sewing, just like as I'm doing it. As you can see, I'll join it together and sew it down. So after sewing it, it will look closed. Okay, as in sort of closed. All right, so here is my sleeve. Okay, so the sleeve, I'll be turning it with the lining. Okay, at the hem line of the sleeve. Okay, so here is the upper part of my top. All right, as you can see, I've joined the shoulder. Okay, as you can see, I've joined the shoulder. It is not showing. I've closed it at the shoulder line for the two sleeves. All right, so what I'm going to do now is to align my fabric. Remember, the front will be having a button, so my button allowance is also there. Right now I'll be attaching the sleeve. Let me show us what I did for the sleeve. Okay, I turned the main fabric with the lining. Okay, so right now I'm going to be attaching the sleeve on both arms, on the armholes. All right, as you can see, I've attached the sleeves. As you can see, it is looking so beautiful. I've attached the sleeves. So what I'm going to do now is to turn it over, right side facing right side, and then I'll sew it on the sides with 1 inch allowance. Remember, it was 1.5 inch. I've used 1/2 inch to hold it down on the sides of the fabric, both front and back panel. So I'll be holding it down from the hem of the sleeve down to the half length with 1 inch sewing allowance. All right, I've done just that. As you can see, it is beautiful. So let's keep it aside. Here is the lower part of my top. Okay, like as I said earlier, we'll be joining this together at the center with the mirror face fabric that is here. Okay, we'll be joining it at the center back. Okay, so I'll be joining it together at the center, joining it with 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then at the lower part of this lower part, I'll fold it with 1 inch folding allowance for the hem. That should be the hem of our top. Okay, let me show us what I'm doing. All right, here is my fabric. Okay, it has turned into a top now. So what I'm going to be doing now is to remove 1/2 inch from the back bodice. Okay, this is to make the top not to pop at the center back. Remember, our back is not really straight. Okay, can remove half inch or 1 inch depending on the case and what you want. So I'll be connecting it down to the sides. I'm taking off half inch from the center back down to the sides of the top. You can take up 1 inch or half inch as the case may be. For me, I want half inch. This is in order to remove puff at the back. Okay, remember this top is not having a zipper. All right, so I'll trim it off in order to make it relax on our clients and also at the back. You can see what I'm doing. I've cut it off. Okay, as you can see, it's not really significant. That is why I went for half inch, but you can also take up 1 inch depending on the size of the client. Okay, so right now we are going to be cutting out the band. I'm going to be attaching the band to the upper part. Here is my band. So let's measure out and know the length of the center of the back bodice. Okay, I have 16.5. Then I'll be adding half inch on both sides. So I'll be measuring at 17.5 inches because I'll be adding it to the front band. And then for the front band, I have 10 inches. Okay, I have 9 inches. So I'll be adding 1 inch also to join it at the two sides. Okay, here is my band. So what I'm going to do now is to place my band side to side. Okay, sorry, I'll join the bands together with half inch on both sides. Okay, just like I said earlier, I added half inch seam allowance on both sides. The same thing I also do for my lining. Okay, just the way I'm doing it, as you can see. Okay, so let me take it to my machine. All right, as you can see, I've joined the band on both sides, giving it a notch at the center back. The same thing I also did for the lining. Okay, so what I'm going to do right away is to put my band on my fabric. Remember, I made a notch at the center back, making sure it's at the center of my upper bodice. And then I'll place the lining also at the lining area. So I've pinned it round. This is exactly what you will do if you're making this kind of top. So I pinned it down in order for it to be aligned, leaving the half inch where I'll be joining it together with the lining and the fabric for the band. Okay, so I finished joining it. As you can see, that is the inner side of it. As you can see, it's looking very smooth and fine. All I'll do is to give it a very good press. Okay, I'll give it a very good press, and then as you can see, I'm turning it out at the center front. Just to cut off the excess and so it can come out neatly. You can see I've turned it. Wow. I'll also do the same for the other side of the front panel, just the way I'm doing it now. As you can see, I've turned it successfully. Here is the lining and this is the right side of our top. Okay, with the band well attached to it. As you can see, it's well placed and okay. Okay, let me show us what I did for this lower part. As you can see, I held it by 1 inch, half inch, and I turned it over, and then I placed the other fabric at the center back, just like I told us earlier, as you can see, and I run a loose stitch to make my gathers. Okay, so right now I'm going to place it. I also made a notch at the center back of the lower part of my top, so that it can align and go round the waist of my top. Okay, so right now I'm going to pin it down. I'm going to pin it around the waist of my top. Okay, gradually making sure that the gathers are evenly distributed round the waist. As you can see, wow, this is beautiful. As you can see, it has come out neatly and beautiful. I've joined it to the upper bodice. Okay, as you can see. So what we're going to do for this top round is to align the center front together, because I told us earlier the front is going to be having a button, sorry, not a zipper, a button, and I left 1.5 inches for the button. So is to align it and then mark out the area for our button hole. Okay, mark out the area for our button hole and take it to the machine to create the hole, the button hole. Okay, let me pin it down together. As you can see, it has come out neatly and beautiful. Very, very easy and simple. Okay, you can give it a trial and post it on our Facebook group, The Beautiful Stitches, and on our page, The Beautiful Seam. Okay, thanks for watching till the end. If this is your first time of visiting this channel, please don't forget to click the subscribe button and touch the notification bell to always get notified anytime I upload my videos, and like, share my videos. I love you all. Thanks for watching till the end. See you in my next tutorial. Bye bye.